welcome back to Drunk in the Library, where we get drunk and talk to you about the strange, the unusual, and the downright stupid things you didn't think you needed to know about.
That's Kayla, and I'm Brooke, and we are back this week with medieval figures and a lot of stress due to none of our equipment once again working. Which brings me to my next point. So we're going to do things a little bit differently, and I'd like to put in the beginning that if you enjoy us, if you consistently listen to us, all 8 of you, I would really...
Oh, we love all 8 of you.
We do. I'm not knocking you guys. It's the other ones that don't listen. Support us. Like us on Facebook, on Instagram. Be our friend. We will talk to you about anything. We enjoy talking to you about things. Also, fun fact, if you listen to us through Anchor, or even if you don't, head on over to our page over there because we added a nice, fun support button where you can donate money to us so that we can buy equipment that works and that this sounds beautiful so that you'll continue listening to us. So yeah, we also appreciate any reviews that we get through Apple, or I don't even know if you can review through Spotify. But
I don't know.
I don't think you can.
Like you can't. I've never seen them on there.
I've never seen ratings on there.
Yeah.
I know you can follow us through Spotify. So if you like that, please do that. We have a lot of support on Facebook, but I don't know how many of you are actually listening to this. So please do that. It would make us very happy, and we'll love you even more for it. So that is a word from me, and that's it.
All right. I do have not a question, comment, or concern, but a fun little addendum from the fairies episode last week.
Okay.
So Brian's cousin messaged me on Facebook this morning with not a correction, just a little bit of information, additional information on Selkies. So I thought you'd find it interesting. Mm-hmm. She said, according to legend, Selkies can shed their seal skin and appear as beautiful humans with dark hair and dark eyes. If you find and hide a Selkie's skin, they have to marry you.
Ew.
I think it's just if they do shed their little tailsies. There are stories of Selkie women being tricked into marriage and later finding where their skins are hidden and leaving their husbands to return to the sea. Irish and Scottish people with dark hair and dark eyes are said to be descended from Selkies.
Oh,
that's me.
That's cool.
Thanks, Rachel. That was a fun little tidbit.
Although
today.
You don't have dark eyes.
I've got darkish eyes. They're not brown, but...
No, but...
Can't I just be of Selkie descent?
I'm more silky looking than you are.
But you're not Irish.
According to my 23andMe, I am a small bit. So, I don't know. Fine, right. You can have that. You could be a fairy.
I mean...
You could be a fairy descent.
Fairy.
They could be anything.
So, what do you got, Brookie?
All right, I forgot that I'm first this week.
Uh-huh.
All right. Just in case any of you actually hear us, we're eating cheese and salami right now.
Sorry.
Anyway, I'll put this down for later then. So my medieval figure this week. So both so my topic kind of comes more towards the end of the Middle Ages.
Okay.
So I chose Vlad the Impaler.
I was going to choose him.
I didn't realize that he was from the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy that he was because I was having a really tough time. So my sources are Wikipedia, LiveScience.com, Encyclopedia Britannica, and Ranker.com. There's a lot of it's weird because there's a lot of information about him, but there's also very little that's known about him because nothing is confirmed.
Right.
At the time that he was ruling, the printing press came in and more stuff started to go out, but a lot of it wasn't actually they weren't using it to make books about history and things that he was doing. Right. They were oh, well, he's, we heard that he's doing some really shitty things and they're printing that up and sending it around. So while there is some stuff about him, there's not a lot of information that we know that we can confirm is true. So I'm going to break it down a little bit for you. I am leaving out a lot because there is a lot of stuff that I don't really care about and no one else is going to care about.
That's fair.
So we're going to talk about the things that I only care about.
Okay.
So, his actual name was Vlad III. His dad was Vlad II. But he had many names that people called him by. So one of them was Vlad Tepes. Tepes being meaning to impale in Romanian. Vlad Dracul. Dracul means dragon in Romanian. In today's Romanian, it means devil.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Or they even called him Dracula, but not the Dracula that we traditionally think of today. It was more like, it was really like Draculae, which meant son of Dracul, because his dad was Vlad Dracul.
Okay. Isn't, and I mean, you might touch on this, but don't like modern historians think that the legend of Dracula, was like birthed by Vlad the Impaler? They think that he is the historical figure that represents Dracula, right?
They do, but they took little bits of things that they knew about him, and like Bram Stoker was the one that kind of initiated all of that and took little bits of history, as I said, of the things that he kind of knew and created like Count Dracula out of that. Really, the only things that they had in common was like a lust for blood. Everything else wasn't really like super accurate.
Okay.
But that was the next thing I was going to say, was he's best known for the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, which may or may not be true. So in order for us to understand like where his brutality and reputation came from, we kind of have to understand a little bit about his family and the decisions that eventually led them to make him the person that we know him as today. So he was born around like the early 1430s to Vlad II and Eupraxia of Moldavia. He was their second child at the time, but his dad went on to have at least 2 more confirmed children, which we knew one of them was a son. There was another one that was believed to be a daughter, Alexandria, but he's fathered a lot of illegitimate children over the years. So I think those 2 were at least with the same woman. So they were like Vlad III's actual brother and sister. So at the time that like Vlad the Impaler was born, his father wasn't ruler really of anything. He eventually goes on to become ruler of Wallachia, which is modern day Romania. But he fought his ass off to kind of get to that point. So originally his half brother Alexander Aldia was ruler of Wallachia. So then when he died, Vlad II kind of seized that opportunity to take over.
Okay.
So he came in kind of like a hurricane and mowed the place down. So like the important part of this to remember is that at the time there was this secret society almost that was called the Order of the Dragon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah, but they didn't actually do anything of value. They were basically in favor of Christian Europe and hellbent on the destruction of the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
Which is modern day Turkey. And the Ottoman Empire at that time was like up in arms. Like they were like taking over everything.
Yeah.
So almost everybody was at war with them at that point.
And now, I'm sorry, just for clarity, Vlad II is Vlad Dad.
Vlad Dad.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he became part of that Order of the Dragon, he took on the surname Dracul.
Okay.
Which means dragon.
Right.
So he then, during that same time, was called to a diplomatic meeting around 1442 with the Sultan of the Ottoman Sultan, I should say, Murad II, to which he decided to bring his children with him.
Why not?
I guess.
They gotta learn.
I guess. But that turned out to be a big fuck up on his part. So he brings his kids, Vlad III, the Impaler, and Radu along. And turns out it's actually a trap. And they were all arrested and held hostage. And Vlad Dad was then released under the premise that he leave the kids behind.
Okay.
And that he basically support any of like the Ottoman policies.
Okay.
So he was like,
yeah, sure, I mean, why not?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to kill me, so I guess that's good. So this is kind of now where we've started to mold Vlad the Impaler.
Okay.
Because he's not happy about being
he's
left
very
behind.
upset, yeah.
He's pissed. I mean, I would be pissed too.
Right.
I don't care if you're doing it for, like, my safety. You're leaving me with the enemy.
Yeah. A Christian enemy at that.
I would be very, very pissed off. Mm-hmm. So, under the Ottomans, Vlad and Radu are actually tutored in science and philosophy and the arts, so they get a really good education, which is great.
Yeah.
Awesome. He also became a skilled horseman and a warrior, which he would later use for more nefarious purposes, as we go on to
As
know
one
about.
does.
Yeah. So, you know, he never forgets that, like, his...
Daddy
you know,
left me.
yeah, I mean, he's not mad at his dad like I would have been, but, you know, he's thinking of, like, you know, his dad's out there now, and he's being held hostage, while his brother, on the other hand, is like, this is great. I got an education. They're not hurting me. I'm enjoying this. So he actually goes on to support the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
So eventually, Vlad learns that his older brother, Mircea, and his dad end up being killed by Wallachian nobles around 1447 because they started to make peace with the Ottomans.
Okay.
So he's pissed now. He's like, I've been held hostage. You fucking killed my dad and my brother.
Right. After saying you wouldn't.
After saying you wouldn't. My brother is like fucking sleeping with the enemy over here. I am pissed. So he leaves, goes back to Wallachia, and realizes that he's next in line because, you know, everyone else is dead.
Yeah.
So he's next in line to become ruler. But he's going to have to fight his ass off to get it because they're not just going to hand it to him because he's like, no, I'm next in line. So there's another dude that's taking over at this point called Vladislav II. So he's holding that seat. So in 1448, Vlad III would end up taking an opportunity to take over the throne again after Vladislav II was out moseying along in the Balkans, fighting a war out there. So he was like, well, nobody's sitting here, so I guess I'll just take this seat for myself.
Oh, seat's empty? Sure.
Anyone using this right now? No? Okay, this is mine now.
Cool.
So, I mean, as one would assume, Vladislav comes back and is like,
Dude,
I'm sorry,
what the fuck?
who the fuck are you? Why are you in my seat? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm the new ruler. And he's like, thanks for keeping it warm for me. Get the fuck out.
He's actually like, I'm Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah. Do you know what I can do?
I impale people and things.
So at this point, he's not, like, I mean, I'm sure he's violent in some aspects, but
he's not the Impaler.
He's not the Impaler.
No, he made that name up himself when Vladislav asked him who he was.
Yeah, probably. He was like, do you know who I am? How dare you?
You haven't heard of Vlad the Impaler yet?
Yeah. So he basically dips out.
Okay.
He's like, all right, I got to figure something out because I'm one man and there are many here that are trying to take this throne back. So between 1448 and 1456, he disappears. Nobody knows where he goes. Nobody knows what he's doing. The only thing that they can confirm is at that time he stopped supporting like the Ottomans, which he was at the, like before that he kind of was supporting them because they did take care of him.
Yeah, sure.
And his dad had made peace with them.
And like, who else? What else are you gonna do? Like,
yeah. And like his hometown was the one that killed his father anyway.
Right.
So like he was pretty pissed at them. So yeah, he stopped supporting the Ottomans and chose to support Hungary, who he knew had like major beef with Wallachia.
Okay.
So he was like, these guys are going to help me overthrow that shit and it's going to be mine again.
Nice.
Yeah. So he makes friends with them. And then, you know, he eventually attains that seat back. So just because Hungary helped him does not mean that he's going to be friends with Hungary.
That's fair.
So he's like, thanks, but you can get the fuck out. So they're not exactly thrilled about this either, but didn't exactly do anything to, like, penalize him for using them.
Okay.
Not at the time. But upon regaining his father's original position, this is when he starts to become who we know him as today. The Impaler. So a lot of the things that we know about him, as I said, we don't know for a fact if they're true.
Okay.
There is some truth in the fact that he impaled people. We don't know how many.
Sure.
We know that he did. We just don't
hasn't?
know how many. And
Okay. Was it 1? Was it 1,000? I don't
so
know.
there's rumors. So we're just gonna take a little dive into some rumors.
Can I be honest? I didn't know that he was called Vlad the Impaler because he like famously impaled. I thought he was just like super violent and just killed a lot of people. I didn't know he actually like killed so many people by impaling them that he got that name. I thought it was just a cool name.
Well, the printed press at the time was the one who gave him that name.
Huh.
Because of like the violent acts that he was doing. by far that is not all that he did, and we
Okay.
will get into that.
not just
but
out there
that's kind of what
impaling
his like claim to
MO.
fame is. Yeah, like that's what his
It's
favorite.
his like serial killer like signature brand.
Oh yeah. He loves.
I guess he is
impaling people.
a serial killer too. Like
I feel like if you kill more than one person, you're a serial killer.
I think the technical number is 7.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a very specific number. We're gonna have to look that up.
I
because
think that's it. But yeah, we'll look it up.
I don't know. I feel like there's people who just fall underneath that they call serial killers.
I think you're just a mass murderer.
I think
it's
you're a
less than
mass
that.
murderer if you hit over a certain amount. I don't know. We're gonna
get
Google
back
this.
to you guys on
We'll
that.
figure that out. But anyway, so impaling human beings on huge spikes wasn't just because he wanted to punish them.
Sure.
He kind of used it as like, you know, if you do something wrong, this is what's going to happen to you.
Okay, it was a threat.
Yes. Like, he used it as a deterrent, even though deterrent is not a strong enough word to take care of that. But yeah, he figured if he impaled enough people, then the living people would then choose to follow him and do whatever he said because they don't want to be impaled.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like if you threatened that with me, it'd be enough to convince me not to do the thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the other thing is, too, which I didn't put in here, but, like, came upon it during my research, is, like, impaling is not just, like, sticking a fucking pike through somebody. Like, it's very specific and very graphic.
Did not know.
Yeah, like, you're not just, like, barbecuing them,
Oh.
like, shish kebabbing them. You're
Okay.
going in orifices and coming out other
okay.
orifices.
That's enough.
Yeah. And I, like, stumbled
I get
upon
it.
that, and I was like, I thought we were just stabbing people, but I'm wrong. So yeah, he wanted to scare people, basically. So then another big rumor, which isn't confirmed, because obviously it's a rumor, was that around 1462, while fleeing, like, the Ottomans advancing on him, he left what they call a forest of the impaled in his wake.
Oh my god.
So according to accounts, no less than 20,000 prisoners of war had been impaled, their bodies decaying on the pikes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
That's so many
That's
people.
a lot of impaling. I mean, I feel like that's a gross exaggeration.
It's gotta be.
I feel like 20,000 is probably, as a whole, altogether, the amount of people that he's impaled. I feel like that's a really big number for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's no, like, even if he did, there's no way he did all
no,
of it.
no.
He's working with a team.
He's
a
not
very
like,
large
leave
team.
them for me.
Right. Like,
I need to leave my hand touch on every single one of these.
he leaves a little calling card on each body.
Puts a little tag on them. Thank you for being impaled today.
You've been impaled by Vlad.
Yeah. Little heart. So, I mean, as I said, like, that wasn't the only thing that he did. And he didn't always go after, like, the Ottomans either. Like, he went after other people.
Okay.
So a big part of, like, or a big area which his wrath took place in was Transylvania, which, if you don't know, is a real place in Romania.
And it's not just Dracula's home, although,
Makes sense.
yeah.
But, like, I mean, Vlad never actually stepped foot in Transylvania.
Oh.
Yeah, which is another big, like,
Huh.
thing about Dracula and Vlad the Impaler. So Dracula takes place, I'm pretty sure, in Transylvania.
I believe so.
But, like, Vlad the Impaler, like, they're pretty sure that he never actually went there. Fun fact, though, which doesn't come up in anywhere in here, but I'm going to tell you it anyway because you're going to love it. So he eventually, after all of this, becomes, like, friends with none other than the Bathory family.
Oh, I almost chose Lady Bathory as
I was gonna say, I wonder if I didn't know if you did. Yeah, he was in, like, cahoots with them because they ruled Transylvania.
Oh, okay. If you guys don't know, Lady Bathory is like a super famous female serial killer. I'm sure one of us will do an episode on her in the future because we both.
I'll let you do
We
that
both
one. 'cause
really, really
yeah,
like
I
her.
know how much you enjoy that one.
Yeah, it's a good tale.
So that'll be yours to do. But yeah, he knew one of her relatives because that relative was ruling Transylvania.
Okay.
But yeah, so he, like, another thing that he did was he targeted civilians and would poison village wells just for funsies.
Okay. Yeah. Just casual mass murder of the whole town. Big.
He wasn't sexist. He impaled everybody, not just women, but men and women and children. Everyone.
Oh, well, that was
anyone
nice.
that he could impale, he did. Didn't leave anyone out.
Okay, well, I mean, you can't call him a racist, that's for sure.
No, because everyone was subject to it. There was even a claim that he impaled babies to their mothers.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Another thing that he did was that he paid sick people to go into Ottoman camps to hopefully spread some kind of disease and cause like an epidemic, because he knew that like a sick army was easier to defeat than a healthy one. So
Holy
like that
shit.
was like one of the first like
that's fucking brutal.
the first accounts of like biological warfare.
Wow.
Before it was like really a thing. There were rumors that he boiled people to death as a method of torture.
Oh my God.
Although he was definitely not the first person to do that. And then this gem, he basically Walder Frey'd everybody.
Oh shit.
And
Red wedding up in here.
He invited a bunch of nobles who knowingly probably had some responsibility in his father's death and his brother's death, invited them to a banquet, knowing that they would probably like challenge him in some sort of way and he'd have an excuse to go after them. So he had them stabbed and then impaled their bodies on spikes right before dessert.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was a real fucking dick. And if you ever like, I mean, we have a typical image in our head, but there's like one particular like, I guess painting
I guess, yeah.
that's like very commonly used to depict him.
Yeah.
He is like the scariest motherfucker.
I have that image in my head, but now that I'm picturing it, I'm not sure if it's Vlad the Impaler or Genghis Khan. But I'm sure they look...
Vlad the Impaler is genuinely creepy looking. Like, Genghis Khan's scary. He's more scary. Vlad is fucking creepy.
Okay.
Like, I can understand where the inspiration for a vampire came from. Because he literally is fucking creepy. And when I was writing my research down, because I told you I, like, wrote it all down first, the first thing I wrote was creepy looking as fuck. Like, he was very sketchy looking. So then, in 1462, he narrowly escaped capture by the Ottomans and was actually intercepted by Hungarian forces and imprisoned instead.
Oh.
Yeah. Somehow he managed to get away from that and then regained his seat again in 1476, but was killed in battle the same year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Imagine being the guy that took down Vlad the Impaler.
I know.
That's going on my tombstone.
Yeah, right? I want to fucking put that on my resume.
Right?
Like, right at the top. By the way...
Just so you know...
Don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but, like, I took down Vlad
the Impaler who?
Yeah. No more because of me. You're welcome. But, surprisingly, he remained a folk hero throughout Romania for a really long time. Because they saw him as somebody who, like, tried to save them from, like, the Ottomans taking over. So, like, they thought that he was kind of a big deal. Regardless of the very shitty things that he did, they were like, no, he tried to save us.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude, yeah. And as of today, it's unknown where he's buried. There's been rumors, but all of them are unsubstantiated. And they have looked into them, but still don't know.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. Which I think is kind of good. Because fuck that dude.
Yeah, and also, like, but at the same time, I think that if we knew where his grave was, it would probably lead to a lot of,
desecration.
Yeah, like vandalism.
Well, I mean...
He sucked.
He fucking sucked. Like, he was a real fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And, like, not to speak ill of the dead, but that dude fucking deserved it.
Yeah. Like,
You don't get to impale 20,000 fucking people.
No.
And then get a fucking tombstone.
That's
Fuck
so
you, bro.
many people.
Yeah.
And, like, what's crazy, too, is, like, I remember learning about Vlad the Impaler in high school.
Really?
Like, history classes, but never in depth like this. Like, Vlad the Impaler tried to take over the Ottoman Empire was, like, largely the extent of my knowledge of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, his whole thing happened more towards, like, the end of, like, the Middle Ages.
Right.
So, like, a lot of his misdoings aren't very known because we don't really talk about it because there's other people that are more important.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like a blip under the radar as far as like anything goes, because to be honest, like nobody fucking cares about Wallachia, which I
That's
mean,
absolutely,
as I said, now is
yeah.
modern day Romania, which I'm sure has a lot more history
Yeah.
and like things to offer than like Wallachia did at the time. So, you know, you're trying to like save this country that like nobody really fucking cares about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they were more concerned about like Transylvania and the other places that were surrounding it versus like Wallachia itself.
right.
So,
right.
you know, they had bigger fish to fry, and he was just like, no, how dare
Wallachia.
you? Wallachia forever.
Genovia.
Yeah. And everyone was like, dude, calm the fuck down. Like, we don't like it that much. And he's like, no, it's mine.
All
And
the
they're like,
Wallachians are like, we're cool with being Romanian. He's like, no, impale them all.
I will stab every single one of you with a fucking pike. Don't test me. And they're like, we're not. And he's like, I'm going to stab you all with a pike anyway and boil you. Do you want to come to dinner? Because I can get you dinner. Everyone just fucking gets stabbed.
You're not gonna get dessert though.
Yeah. He's like telling the cooks. He's like, don't bother. Don't bother. It'll be
don't
over
need to
beforehand.
make a cake.
No need. No need. They're like, but sir, we give everybody dessert. And he's like, not this time.
No, not today.
Just let it go. So yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Well, quick break from us, and we'll be back in a moment.
Enjoy. Alrighty, I hope everybody enjoyed that short sponsored break. Okay, what do you got for me?
All right. So, heading into medieval figures, I knew two things. I wanted to do a woman.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to focus on a female figure from the medieval times. And I was also like 95% sure that I wanted to do Joan of Arc, like right off the bat, just because I
thought you were
don't know, like I just know that she existed, but I don't actually know anything about her.
Okay.
And then I like started looking at female figures from like the medieval era, and I was like, I'm not doing her. So I brought somebody from like the very beginning of the Middle Ages instead for you. And it is Empress Theodora of the Byzantine Empire. Have you ever heard of her?
Nope, I have no idea who the fuck that is.
Me either.
Great.
Well, like now I do,
Yeah.
but I didn't previously. And all of my information comes from Britannica.com, Ancient.eu, and obviously Wikipedia. So not a ton is known for sure about her early life. She lived from 497 to 548 BC, and she was the wife of Emperor Justinian I. Not a ton is known about her early life in a work written by
Wait, she was born when?
497.
Oh, I thought you said
Did I
14.
say-
Yeah, I think you said 14. That's why I was like, the Middle Ages were over at that point. I was like, what do you
My
fuck you mean? That it's the-
Yeah, 497 to 548.
Okay. Oh, she's old.
Yeah. And then in a work written by, and I'm going to fuck this name up, Procopius of Caesarea.
Sounds like a disease.
Yeah. Called Secret History. He wrote a little bit about her, but everything written in this secret history book by him has to be taken with like a grain of salt, because it was essentially like the National Enquirer of its day.
Okay.
So her father Acacius was a bear keeper at the Hippodrome in Constantinople.
How does one become a bear keeper?
I don't know how he got into it, but I thought you would hover more on the word hippodrome.
I've heard the word hippodrome before, though, so I don't really care that much about that. I'm more focused on how the fuck do you become a bear keeper?
I don't have answers.
Why
for
do you
that.
only keep bears?
Because so a hippodrome is like, it was a Greek or Roman like stadium primarily for horse racing
Okay.
and chariot racing, but they did do like circus acts as well. So he was essentially like the bear trainer in the circus.
What's that? What's the big one?
Colosseum.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. I was like, you know.
I think the Colosseum is like a theater versus, like, it was very specific that hippodromes are horse race courses.
Monmouth Racetrack.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that they did chariot races in, like, the Coliseum.
I don't know. I don't know.
A
I'm sure they probably,
Colosseumologist?
yeah, Colosseum, whatever, Colosseumologist. So it comes from the word, hippos is the Greek word for horse, and drome is the Greek word for course. So it's a horse course.
You just threw so much information at me that I didn't even know where I wanted to start. First of all, hippo?
Yeah.
Hippo means horse?
Yeah, in Greek.
Then what's an actual hippo of today? A
Also
water
a hippo.
horse?
Also a hippo. Yeah. I think that's right. A hippopotamus, I believe, translates to water horse.
We have to look up what potamus means. Oh my god. Horse course.
Horse
Okay,
course.
go ahead.
Her mother was an actress at the Drome, and Theodora followed suit in her early life, so she also became an actress. Back in these days, actress was pretty much synonymous with prostitute.
Cool.
So she was like a fairly lowly job, and
Gotta act to get that money.
yeah, they were looked down upon quite a bit in society at the time, which is weird because I feel like actresses throughout history have always been like, not idolized, but it's always been like a profession of like renown,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
Eventually she did give birth to at least one child out of wedlock.
Okay.
Procopius writes that there were more, but again, we cannot trust Procopius. And only one was ever mentioned by other historians.
Okay.
She eventually left the Hippodrome and traveled to Africa, where she was like a mistress for a wealthy merchant, and also potentially converted to Christianity at this time.
Like everyone of the day.
Yes. Then she met Justinian. At this point, she had converted to Monophysitism,
Okay.
which is like an Orthodox Christian religion, basically involving the belief that Jesus is of one nature versus like the divine and the human nature, whereas like most Christian beliefs are of the belief that he has two natures, the divine and the human. This one just combines the two.
Okay.
Justinian was super into her because she was like hella pretty and also real smart.
Nice.
Yeah. So he immediately made her his mistress.
Okay.
And then shortly after, he married her in the year 525, which I thought was interesting, is that he had to change laws in order to marry her because it was like straight up illegal for a man of his position, he was a senator at the time, to marry an actress.
Okay.
So he literally had to change laws in order to legitimize her as his wife, which he wanted to do because he wanted both her daughter and her to be like his legitimate family, which I thought was really cool.
That's really cute.
Right? Usually the emperor of the Byzantine Empire found his bride through beauty pageants, so like it wasn't completely abnormal for a wife to be of like lower status.
Okay.
But as soon as he was like ascended to the throne in 527, so 2 years later, he proclaimed her like his Augusta, so basically like his empress. She was his equal in pretty much every way: intelligence, ambition, and power.
Nice.
And he had her coronated on the same day that he did.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice.
I know.
Go Justinian.
Yeah.
You're a fine dude.
Right? Their coronation largely brought in like a new era for the Byzantine Empire. She was never actually claimed co-regent.
Okay.
So she technically ruled below him. However, you're hard pressed to find a law written in the time of their reign that her name is not on. She co-wrote most of his laws. She had like working relationships with all of the foreign ambassadors and rulers of the time. She was really kind of like at the forefront with him. He didn't do anything without like talking to her first.
Cool.
In 532, there were like a couple of revolts. They came to be known as the Nika revolts, and basically this boiled down to like two political factions. They were called like the Greens and the Blues, which I don't know like how that determines your
The Sneetches and the Yellow Belly Sneetches. They had a star on their belly, but the other ones didn't.
It's like the skins and the shirts.
Yeah.
These two like combined forces, and they were just like, we're gonna make our own emperor.
Okay.
And Justinian was like, hey, advisors, do you think that I should run away or fight these guys? And all of the advisors were like, we advise you to run away. That is what you should be doing, Justinian. And Theodora was like, I think that we should just take him down instead. So he followed her lead. His military commander, I guess, the lead of his like military, Belisarius, rounded up all of these people with like their military and just like slaughtered them. The accounts, I think, were upwards of like 20,000 people. Just rounded them up into the hippodrome that Theodora had grown up in, and the page actually said, "Cut them to pieces."
Okay.
So, not really sure what that means.
Oh, I think you know what it means. I
mean, like,
they fucking...
yeah, but that's a lot of people to cut into pieces. After that, the hippodrome kind of like went out of fashion.
I wonder why.
For reasons.
No more fucking horse course.
So Procopius recorded her words at this time, which I'm going to quote for you directly because I'm not going to paraphrase that.
Please do.
She said, "I do not care whether or not it is proper for a woman to give brave counsel to frightened men, but in moments of extreme danger, conscience is the only guide. Every man who is born into the light of day must sooner or later die, and how can an emperor ever allow himself to become a fugitive? If you, my lord, wish to save your skin, you will have no difficulty in doing so. We are rich, there is the sea, there too are our ships. But first consider whether, when you reach safety, you will not regret that you did not choose death in preference. As for me, I stand by the ancient saying, royalty makes the best shroud."
Nice.
Yeah, so she was like pretty firm in her beliefs.
She was like, I'm gonna fuck shit up. And
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna stay here, you can run away, but I'm gonna stand my ground.
good for her.
Yeah. So beyond that, Theodora went on to just like ruthlessly protect her religion.
Okay.
Because she still adopted that like monophysitism, while the rest of the country largely adopted that I can't remember. I think it was like polyphysitism or something like that. The other sanction was called. Justinian did not follow her religion, and she like stood up against him in that ruthlessly. Like she would house priests in their palace, priests that like supported her faith. She regularly like donated money for her cause, and despite like the active persecution of her people.
Wow.
Yeah. Theodora's political enemies often found themselves out of her favor, as you can imagine. Either out of her favor or just like she would like whisper about them in the court, and then all of a sudden they wouldn't be cool anymore, basically.
That fucker over there. You don't want to be friends with him, do you?
Some of them were even rumored to be executed.
Oh.
One victim of this, allegedly, is the Gothic queen Amalasuntha.
Okay.
Which, gonna have to remember to look her up later. Although Theodora was never like formally accused of having caused the execution, it's largely believed that Theodora's actions led to the execution of this queen.
Okay.
In 542, the bubonic plague struck, and our dear Justinian I fell ill.
Oh, no.
Yeah. During his illness, Theodora kind of had to like step up and be the reigning monarch of the time.
I mean, let's be real. She was kind of
she
the
was
reigning,
already the reigning monarch.
Mm-hmm.
She, however, didn't have an heir to like be the like regent of. So basically, like if a king dies, the heir steps up, and then the queen kind of like hovers over the shoulder and queens from the sidelines. But they never had any children.
Okay, she just had a daughter, right?
Yeah. So there was no heir if he fell ill. So she knew that, like, as soon as he died, that people were going to be gunning for her throne. And she was like, I'm not going to let that happen. Her biggest, like, political rival was Justinian's, like, war leader guy, the Belisarius, who had slaughtered all the people in the Hippo. And, she basically just like exiled him, took away all of his land and his status, and was like, nope, not anymore, buddy.
Bye.
Yeah. Belisarius was too well liked by the people for her to like imprison or murder him.
Okay.
But she could take away all of his standing, basically, which is what she did. And then Justinian did recover, so the bubonic plague did not kill him.
Oh,
yeah.
well, that's good.
So we lived to be together again.
I definitely thought he was gonna die.
No, he survived.
Wow,
And
you
then
had me going there.
after a little while, he reinstated Belisarius.
What a dunce! Come on, man.
I know. But it was because the next year they wound up going to war with the Moors and the Goths. So, like, he needed a strong army. So, like, all right, fine, Justinian. You had me in the first half, but all right.
I'm not exactly your biggest supporter in the second half.
No.
But you're not the worst.
Theodora was very well known for her charitable nature. She opened up a lot of hospitals and orphanages. And she opened up, I thought this was really cool, a house for, like, recovering prostitutes, basically. Or reformed prostitutes. Like... People who, like, they were looking to enter respectable society and make money doing something, like, not prostitutes.
Okay.
So she opened, like, a halfway house, essentially, for them.
But, like, what if they wanted to do that? What
Then
if
they didn't have
like...
to. This was for the ones who were looking to enter, like, civilized society or, like, looking to reform themselves. Because, like, we can say... Like, I mean, now it's much more acceptable to do any kind of work you want, whether it be sex work or anything. Mm-hmm. But it's largely understood that
back then
it was looked down upon.
Yeah.
So it was like a halfway house for women who didn't want to do that stuff anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh. In the year 548, Theodora died, most likely due to cancer or gangrene. She was only 51 or 52 when she died, which is very sad.
But that's also kind of old for that time, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess it's probably not like a terrible life. Justinian was like 20 years older than her, so he was quite old, and he went on to rule for 17 more years without her.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They, like I said, they didn't have any children. He never remarried after she died. Her daughter did go on to have, like, her own children. Okay. She had 3 sons, and all of them wound up to be, like, fairly wealthy statesmen.
I thought you were going to say worthless.
Worthless.
They were fairly worthless. Nice try, kids, but sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Like I said, Justinian went on to rule for 17 more years without her, but he never really passed any, like, important legislature after she died. So, like, he didn't remarry, but he also, like, didn't really do anything. So it just goes to show, like, how much of his law was coming from her. Wow. Which I think was super interesting.
I've literally never heard of her.
Yeah.
I wonder, because I have a book at home called Princesses Behaving Badly.
Oh.
And it's got stories in there about, like, women who, like, went on to do great things that are kind of overlooked. I wonder if she's in there.
I wonder. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll have to check when I get home. But I'd be interested to see that, because that is an interesting story. I knew nothing about
Yeah,
it.
like, she didn't leave, like, the most interesting life, but I definitely think that, like, the things she did left a huge impact on, like, everything that followed, especially for the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, all the legislature and stuff she made sure got passed.
Yeah.
And I did see, too, that, like, by the end of her life, the religion that she had worked so hard to defend became the reigning religion in the area.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care about religion, but good for her.
No, but it's an important part of history.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically all of history at this point. Yeah. You know, like it was the reason for everything that's happened.
Right.
Like is fought for probably religious purposes. So.
Almost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You are
with me,
most welcome.
because I have no idea who the fuck she is, but now I know a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. So that wraps up our medieval figures. We will be back next week to finish out medieval May with medieval events.
Oh, and book recommendation.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to mention there is a book that goes swimmingly with the Vlad the Impaler section of this episode. It's called And I Darken by Kirsten White, I believe, is the author. And it is, I read it probably like 2 years ago, and I did really enjoy it. It's like a historical retelling of Vlad the Impaler, but like, what if Vlad was a girl?
Yes.
It's super interesting, and it's written really well. It's written from Vlad, aka Lada in the book is her name, her point of view. So I'm interested to see how the series progresses as like Vlad's history gets darker, to see what her thought process is in doing all of those horrific things.
I'll have to like finish it because, as I said, I started it on audiobook. I have the actual physical book. I've just never read it.
Yeah.
But now I might, because I do know a little bit more about him. And as I said, like, I knew some of the characters in there, like, were based off of his, like, real life siblings and stuff. Like, I know, like, I probably read the first chapter, like, Radu is genuinely his brother in real life.
I think that I had been, one of the reasons that I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, was because I didn't have a great understanding of exactly what Vlad the Impaler had done.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of the book trying to figure out, okay, is Lada supposed to be Vlad, or is it supposed to be Vlad's daughter?
Okay, I think that's kind of what I thought too when I initially started reading it, but now it makes more sense knowing what I know.
Right, yeah.
Because, like, as I said, I condensed that a lot because there is so much.
So much.
There's just, like, there's so many battles. You know, he was, like, in and out of, like, his seat multiple times. Like, I think he ruled 3 separate times because he just kept getting kicked out of Wallachia. So, like, there's a lot more to it. I just had to condense it down because
we only got 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have time to go into his entire history. Plus the fact that, as I said, not all of it's confirmed anyway, and we don't know that much information. So I'm not going to feed you a bunch of shit that I don't know if it's true or not. Although I kind of did. But, I mean, that stuff is unimportant. There's nothing entertaining about it. No. Like, we don't care.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what we have for you. And as I said, we will be back next week with medieval events, and that will tie up our medieval May series.
If there's like any topics that you guys want to hear, let us know, because I mean, we both keep running lists of things to do, so it's just something for us to add to the list.
Yeah. And, you know, let us know your thoughts on things, because we do like a decent amount of research into this stuff. So, like, we'd love to know what everyone else thinks about it. If it's something that you're interested in, if it's something that you really weren't that cool with, like, let us know.
Yeah.
You know, we have these social medias and things for a reason, and we want to keep doing this. So open your mouth.
All right. That's it from us. Stay weird, stay drunk.
Learn something new, and we will see you next week. We are out.